Hello everyone, welcome to V2B Academy and I welcome you all to the session of V2B Varta Setu. So as part of Varta Setu, we have started with international relations. If you haven't watched the first class of international relations, please watch it, it is already uploaded. So now we are continuing with the part 2 of international relations for the month of May 2025. Okay, we have completed 11 topics. Now we are continuing with the topic number 12. Okay, so let's start the discussion. So the 12th topic is related to the ongoing oil price tension. So let's look at this particular topic in more detail. So why is it in the news? It is in the news because in May 2025 what happened is, so a country which is leading OPEC plus, okay, OPEC plus is a grouping. Okay, so this particular grouping is led by basically Saudi Arabia. So what they have done is they have reversed the previous production cuts, sparking a full-fledged oil war. So basically what happens is OPEC countries and OPEC plus countries, okay, will have the dominance of the petroleum, crude oil, okay, other kind of gases, etc. kind of dominance will be there with respect to this particular OPEC plus countries and OPEC countries. So Saudi Arabia is a leading dominator of this particular OPEC plus countries. So what happens is these countries will actually go through a similar approach where they'll try to control the oil prices. Okay, so they'll try to control the oil prices overall so that they can gain maximum profits without any loss. Okay, so what they'll do is sometimes they'll cut the production in order to raise the demand, so that after once the demand get raised, okay, so they'll produce the oil and they'll sell it to international markets. There they can gain more profits. Basically, if there is more demand, whatever the product may be, if there is more demand, definitely the price of the product will get increased. So initially what happened is previously, so this Saudi Arabia has declared, okay, OPEC plus countries has declared the production cuts. Okay, so they have thought of decreasing the production of this oil so that they can increase the demand, so that they can gain the profits. Right, so but what happened is, despite of decrease in the production, so this particular price decrease, the price increase or the profits that they need to gain did not increase. So despite the production cuts, let me explain you once again, despite the production cuts, it did not result in the increase in profits. Okay, so it did not result in the increase of profits. So that's the reason they wanted to reverse the previous production cuts, sparking a full-fledged oil price war, a new form of global conflict. Basically, oil price war is nothing but it's a new kind of conflict that occurs globally. So this is not actually fought aggressively, but it is fought over the barrels of crude oil. Okay, so this is the context of the news. So let's understand what is this OPEC plus country. OPEC plus countries are the group of countries consisting of Organization of Petroleum Exports countries. So basically OPEC plus countries consists of OPEC countries plus several non-OPEC countries. So there is a grouping called OPEC. Okay, so along with them, so there are some other members who are not part of OPEC. They are also members in this OPEC plus. So that particular two groups will constitute and will form a OPEC plus countries. Okay, so they'll coordinate for the coming up with the oil production policies so that they can manage the oil supply globally, so that they can balance and influence the prices of the oil that is produced and marketed globally. I hope you have understood till here. So what are the important things that you have to learn for the OPEC plus? So this is a group of countries which consists of OPEC countries plus non-OPEC countries. A total of 13 major oil exporting countries are there in it, including Saudi Arabia, Iraq, Iran, UAE, Nigeria and many more are there. Okay, plus indicates that there are several non-OPEC countries are also there in it. For example, Russia, Oman, Kazakhstan, Mexico and many more other countries are there who are not part of OPEC, but they are part of OPEC plus countries. Okay, remember this particular point. So what led OPEC plus to increase the oil production in May 2025? So basically initially they thought of reducing the production of the oil so that they can raise the demand and that will help in raising their profits. But despite of the decrease in the production, the oil prices did not result in the profits for OPEC countries. So that's the reason they have again increased the oil production. The ineffectiveness of the previous cuts, despite voluntary output cuts of 2.2 million barrels, initially what they have done is almost they have decreased the production of the oil of which is valued at 2.2 million barrels per day by 8 members in 2023, including a collective cut of 5 million BPD earlier. Oil prices kept declining. So despite of the production cuts, oil prices started declining. Okay, it did not result in increase in the oil prices, and it did not result in the increase in the profits for these countries. Okay, so that's the reason whatever the decisions that they have taken previously, they have reversed their decisions and they started increasing the oil production in May 2025. Okay, so next one is oversupply and competition. So why, despite of decrease in the production, why the oil prices are not increasing? Because the new producers, for example, there are countries like Brazil, Guyana, and there are also the countries which are shale oil producers like USA. So they have increased the production despite OPEC countries decreasing the production. So as these countries are increasing the production, so they are able to satisfy the demand that is occurring in the global countries. Okay, this has increased their market share. Because of that, OPEC plus countries lost their control. Okay, so whatever the production cuts that the OPEC plus countries have done, that was the vacuum which they have created was occupied by the countries like Brazil, Guyana, and also USA. Because of that, the OPEC plus control of the price has decreased, and also because of Saudi Arabia's frustration. So overproduction of OPEC plus members like Kazakhstan. So despite of being in the OPEC plus countries, there are few countries like Kazakhstan, Russia, Iraq, UAE, Nigeria, despite of a collective policy that they have come up like to decrease the production of the oil. So these countries did not follow the policies that they have formed. Okay, so because of that also enough oil was there in the market, because of which the demand did not increase and the price did not increase. Okay, market flooding strategy. To discipline overproducers and regain market share, Saudi Arabia led a reversal in strategy. So why did they reverse in the strategy again? So why they started increasing the production once again? Because Saudi Arabia wanted to punish the countries who have increased the production despite of being in the OPEC plus cartel. Okay, so increasing output 4,11,000 BPD starting June 2025. So you don't need to remember this particular points. Okay, you don't need to remember this particular numbers. Okay, you just need to understand the concept here. Okay, so anticipating return of major sanction producers like Iran, Venezuela, Russia, OPEC plus may be front loading production before supplying increases further. So what they are also thinking is, so there are some other countries, for example, there are countries like Iran, there are countries like Russia. Okay, so these countries are basically under sanctions because of the war-like conditions. Because of Russia-Ukraine war, Russia is under sanctions by the Western nations. Like European Union has kept sanctions on it, USA has kept sanctions on it. So because of which Russia is not able to increasing the production, Russia is not able to gain because of the oil production. Okay. Even Iran, recently we have seen Iran and Israel war, and Iran was sanctioned because of the nuclear production, okay, for the non-civilian usage. So because of that, on Iran also there are several sanctions that were there. So if these particular two countries, once the war ends, so these countries will again come into the market because sanctions will be removed once the war ends. Okay, once the war ends, the sanctions on these particular countries will be removed. So again they'll be competitive enough to compete with the OPEC plus countries. So what Saudi Arabia and other OPEC countries have thought is, so if you are not producing it now, so your say in the oil price control will definitely decrease if you are not producing now. So that's the reason we need to front load our production. That means we have to produce the oil beforehand, so that once these Iran, Russia, Venezuela type of countries re-enter the market, so we can compete with them once they re-enter, if we are front loading. If we are not front loading, definitely they'll occupy the vacuum that is created because of the lack of production from these countries. Okay, so I hope you have understood the concept. So why Saudi Arabia is called a swing producer? So why Saudi Arabia is dominating other nations in the oil production? Because of the huge production capacity of the Saudi Arabia. So it can increase or decrease output swiftly to influence the global oil prices. So basically Saudi Arabia is leading in the oil production, and it has a very huge influence that, so it can, if it is increasing the production or if it is decreasing the production, that particular action that is taken by Saudi Arabia will definitely influence the global oil prices. So that's the reason we are calling Saudi Arabia as a swing producer. Okay, so and it has a stabilizing role also. It prefers the stable and moderately high prices so that the oil producing countries can get huge profits out of it. And also because of its historical precedence, it means historically also Saudi Arabia is a region which has dominated. So for example, it is the reason for the previously launched wars due to oil wars. For example, in 1985, 1986, 1998, 2014 to 16, 2020. So these years lot of price wars has happened in the past. So and Saudi Arabia was leading it, and it was in a stabilizing mode. Okay, it was trying to stabilize the countries with respect to the oil prices. Okay, so it has a historical precedence. And current context also, if you look at that current context, so it took the largest voluntary cut, almost 3 million BPD production cut was taken by the Saudi Arabia. So Saudi Arabia has strictly followed the policy of decrease in the production in 2024, but it started increasing the output because it wanted to front load. Okay, before the countries like Russia and Iran re-entered the market. So after the sanctions are removed, so definitely they have to compete with these countries. So that's the reason. So they wanted to re-enter the market and they wanted to front load the production. Okay. So try to concentrate on the words that I am telling. For example, I told front load. So you also need to actually mention these kind of terminologies. Okay, you need to try using these kind of terminologies in your mains answers so that you can gain good amount of marks. Okay, so good quantity of marks will be awarded to you if you are using these kind of terminologies. I am not asking you to be a person who is using rich vocabulary. I'm asking you to use a UPSC specific keywords. Okay, there are few keywords which UPSC tends to give you more marks. Okay, so for example, if you are using democratic backsliding, okay, if you are using good governance, if you are using the terminologies like e-governance, glass ceiling. So these are the kind of terminologies which UPSC will like. Okay, so and these kind of terminologies will help in decrease in the space. So two words can explain one or two sentences. So instead of writing two sentences, you can mention one word that help you to fill the space, and that will help you to write more dimensions in the answer, because this particular point is written in one particular word. Okay, you are using one keyword to explain the whole thing. For example, glass ceiling. You don't need to explain this word further. So glass ceiling is a word which describes that. So women are placed in a position. For example, women are economically getting empowered. Yes, but women are still placed in a positions where they do not have a more responsibility of taking decisions. For example, in a company, so the post like CEO, the post like managers, okay, the managerial posts, so these are often filled by men because of the patriarchal mindsets. So women are not given those positions. Okay, so this particular ceiling that is hampering the women's empowerment, not only horizontally but also vertically, that particular phenomena is called as glass ceiling. So you don't need to explain glass ceiling totally again. Okay, so you just need to mention glass ceiling instead of writing women are often they were not allowed to be in a positions of CEO and all. Okay, you don't need to write the whole sentence. You can mention that particular point in one or two words, and this will create a huge impact. Okay, so observe when I'm speaking, when I'm using the terminology, and try to replicate in your mains answer. So, and if you are more interested on this particular activity, so maintain one book where you try to mention the different keywords that I'm using in the classes. Or if I feel something is important, if I feel something can be useful to you to replicate in the answers, I'll tell you in the class so that you can use it in your mains answers. Okay. So who are the key oil producers under US sanctions? So Russia, Iran, Venezuela. So these are all the countries which are the major oil producers, but as of now they are facing sanctions. For example, Russia because of the Russia-Ukraine conflict. Iran is under the sanctions because of the nuclear activity and the regional activities. And Venezuela is under sanctions because of the political repercussions. So these are also the oil-rich nations and top oil producers. So if the sanctions on these countries are removed by the Western countries, definitely they'll re-enter the market. So in order to compete with them, the reversal in the decision by Saudi Arabia has been taken to increase in the production, okay, to front load the production. So let me give you a framework. Let me help you with a new framework. So basically, if there is any question on the external economy, so what are the key dimensions or the key components that you have to think of in order to generate the points? So this is a pre-thinking template. Okay, so basically these frameworks are the pre-thinking templates that will help you to brainstorm or to generate the points in your mains answers. Okay, so this will help you in saving the time that I have already told you in the last classes. For example, now let's learn this particular external economy components. So there are several external economy components. For example, economy means it is respect to production, goods and services, exports, imports, balance of payments, and many more. So there are several components if we are thinking specifically about external economy. For example, once we are producing any product, definitely external economy will help in increasing the exports and increasing the imports. Okay, so we'll be importing few raw materials, few finished products, and we'll be exporting few raw materials and few finished products to other countries. So exports and imports will involve the external economy into the India. So that's why exports and imports can be treated as, or a foreign trade can be treated as, a component of external economy. So if there is any question that is revolving around the external economy, you have to mention about exports and imports or foreign trade. Okay, balance of payments, definitely the trade will result in the balance of payments, sometimes positive, sometimes negative. For example, with USA we have a positive balance of payments because we are exporting more products, more goods and services to the USA, and we are importing less because of that. So as the balance of payments are a result of this particular thing, or sometimes they are result of the value of currency also. Okay, so basically balance of payments is the another angle that you have to think of. And exchange rate mechanisms, currency convertibility, how easily you can convert your particular currency into the currency of other countries. So these kind of currency convertibility is another point you have to think of. Okay, and sometimes other countries will be involved. Okay, the external economic sector will be involved in India's domestic economy by investing in India. For example, foreign direct investment, foreign portfolio investments. So let me ask you a question. What is the difference between direct investments and portfolio investment? Try to comment in the comment box. Okay, you have to tell me the difference between FDI and FPI. Okay, try to mention this timestamp and also try to answer it in the comment box. Let me check how many of you will answer. Okay, definitely I'll read the answers. Okay, external commercial borrowings. Okay, so sometimes what happens is we'll take loans. Okay, we'll get some grants from other countries. Okay, some countries will provide grants, and also few institutions like IMF, World Bank, they'll also giving us grants, loans for coming up with the infrastructure projects or to come up with any capital expenditure or any other expenditure. So these borrowings will also be as part of the external economy only. So tariffs and non-tariff barriers. For example, if we are exporting any product to European Union, so they may impose some tariffs or some duties on us, so because of which we need to pay huge taxes to them, because of which the final product price will increase. So because of that, the competition with the other products, okay, or the competitive products may decrease. Okay, may increase, I'm sorry. Okay, so anti-dumping duties will be there, quotas will be there. So all of these terms you will learn as part of static economy. Okay, so remittances are another particular kind of things that will be a part of the external economy. So like why remittances will be a part of external economy. So think, if any person, so for example, if you are a family of 5, your brother has went to USA for studies, or he has went or settled in USA. Let's think of this. You're a family of 5 and your brother has settled in USA, and your brother is the only breadwinner of your family, and he'll be sending few like currencies, or he'll be sending back the money each month, okay, for the expenditure of your family. So whatever the money that he's sending back by working in the US, that particular money is nothing but remittances. Okay, so that's why we are treating remittances also a part of the external economy only. Okay, as they are working in the other countries' economy and earning some profits, and they're sending back to India. Okay. So next, official development assistance and foreign aid. Okay, so basically you can treat as part of this external commercial borrowings only, but however borrowings will only constitute loans. So you can add the foreign aid, grants and all of this as part of this developmental assistance. Sovereign ratings and foreign exchange reserves. So sometimes what happens is there are few organizations will give ratings to our banks. Okay, they'll give ratings to the countries with respect to the loans that we take. Okay, for example, there is something called a Civil score, right? So in the same way, country will get some sovereign ratings, so based on which the investors will try to invest in India. So if Civil score, that is the ratings, the sovereign ratings of the country is good, definitely the countries will be interested in investing in India. So in that way, foreign exchange reserves, sovereign ratings, these are also part of external economy. And there are some trade agreements and global institutions that will be involved in Indian economy, which are part of external economy, like WTO, IMF, World Bank, free trade agreements, okay, RTAs, comprehensive economic partnerships, so many more. Okay, CEPA, CETA, okay, like FTAs, PTAs and many more. Okay, so these are all part of the external sector economy. So if there is any question in the external economy, you have to think of these many points. Okay, one, after producing the goods, when you want to trade with another country, that will result in the foreign trade or imports or exports. Okay, so currency is required to trade with them, so currency exchange, foreign reserves are also part of the external economy. Sometimes we go there, we settle over there and we'll send back some money to our country, so that is called as remittances. And there are some institutions that will be involved, like WTO, IMF and all. Okay, so sometimes we'll borrow from the other countries, like external borrowings, external sector borrowings. So next, sometimes the foreign aid will be received. Okay, basically developmental assistance will be received. And sometimes what happens is other countries and other institutions will give sovereign ratings to India. And foreign direct investments and foreign portfolios investments, these are also part of the external economy. So if there is any question, you can think of generating the points in these dimensions only. Okay. So there are some other parts also, like external taxation, tariff, remittances, all of this can be a part of the external economy. So this particular structure or these particular components that we have tried to derive as part of external economy, they'll help in writing and structuring GS3 answers. For example, if there is any question on currency volatility, or if there is a direct question on the foreign direct investments, foreign private like portfolio investments and many more, in many more areas we can apply it. Okay. We'll try to apply in this particular topic only, that is we are discussing about the oil price war, right? So Saudi Arabia has reversed its decision of reducing the production of these oils, right? So in that particular topic only, there is a concept called impact of oil price on India. So for example, whatever is happening in the world, it is of no use. Okay, it is of no use to us as a UPSC aspirant. Okay, if it is not having any positive or negative impact on India. Definitely if it is having any impact on India, that is the reason that we will be studying that particular topic. If it is not having any impact on India, definitely we will not be studying for the exam. Okay, so if you are interested in it, definitely you can read. But if you are strictly preparing for UPSC, definitely you have to learn it if it is having some kind of impact on India. Okay, so now let's see how this kind of oil price war will impact India. Okay, so let's apply this particular external sector economic components for generating the points for this particular topic, that is impact of oil price on India. Okay, so first thing that we have thought is exports and imports or foreign trade. So what will happen? So this will result in lowering the import bill and fiscal savings will happen. So for example, because of the fall in oil prices, what happens is, as India is a more importing country of the oil, okay, we import lot of oil from the other countries. Definitely, as there is a oil price decrease in the economy, or the reversal decision of the Saudi Arabia will help in decreasing the oil prices further, because of which India's fiscal savings will be there. Like when we are trading with other country or when we are trying to import the oil, we get the oil for the lower price only. Okay, so for example, in 2024 to 2025, India has spent almost $137 billion on crude imports, A $1 drop in global oil prices can save India roughly $1.5 billion annually. This much amount of money will be saved because of the $1 drop of the oil prices globally. Okay, so we can actually increase the savings of the country. Okay, we'll have the fiscal savings if there is any oil price war in the world. Okay, and also this will help in reducing the export earnings from petroleum products. So what will happen is, so India exports refined petroleum products. So we'll basically import the crude oil. Okay, we'll import the crude oil, we'll refine it, and we'll be deriving the component called the refined petroleum oil, and the refined petroleum oil will again be sent to other countries in the form of exports. So let me explain you once again. From the oil producing countries, what we'll do is we'll import crude oil. Okay, we'll import crude oil. Because of the oil price wars, because of the oil wars, what is happening is whatever we are importing to the country, we are getting it for the lower price, because of which we are getting benefit out of it. But what happens is we will use the crude oil for the domestic purposes. Okay, we'll consume in the domestic economy. Sometimes what we'll do is we'll refine the crude oil and we'll make the petroleum, the refined petroleum, and the refined petroleum will be exported to other nations. Okay, when oil price decreases, the refined petroleum price will also get decreased. Because of this, India will be in a negative side. Okay, India will get negatively affected. Okay, I hope you have understood. So India will export refined petroleum products, a top export item. Lower crude prices reduces the global demand and margins for these exports. So because of which will be in a loss side. Okay. Next component of external economy is remittances. Okay. So what will happen? So for example, if there is any Indian person or Indian origin person who is working abroad or who is working in a oil rich producing country. So as the oil prices decreases, okay, for example, your brother is staying in Russia or Saudi Arabia. Let's think your brother is staying in Saudi Arabia. So basically he have a habit of sending money back to the country in the form of remittances. Okay, because he is a sole breadwinner of your family. Think of that. Okay, just imagine this is a story. Or else imagine yourself who is working in Saudi Arabia and you'll be sending back the remittances to the country for your parents or for your family. So what happens? So because of the oil price war, the oil price gets decreased. As you are staying in Saudi Arabia, as the oil price decrease, the Saudi Arabia economy will get affected. The economy of Saudi Arabia will get affected negatively. So because of the negative effect of the economy of Saudi Arabia, definitely as you are staying in Saudi Arabia, definitely it will have a negative impact on you. Because of which the prices may increase over there, inflation might happen, some kind of negative effect on economy may happen in Saudi Arabia. Because of which you will be negatively affected. The remittances you send to your home or for your family might also get decreased. So because of this, the remittances we receive from the other nation will get decreased. Okay, I hope you have understood. So the Gulf countries face revenue drops leading to reduced infrastructure spending and job losses for Indian expertise. For example, you may also lose job because of the bad economic hit in the Saudi Arabia. So because of which you may lose job, you may not send the remittances back to your home country, because of which India will be in the loss side. And if you know, India is a huge remittances receiving country. I think it is in the top 1 or top 2. Okay. So next, think of tariffs and taxation. So if you think and generate the points related to tariffs and taxation, so lower tax revenues from the oil sector. So as oil prices drop, the government earns less in excise duties, royalties and other taxes from the oil and gas sales. So because oil price is decreasing, the taxes that is received by the government will also get decreased, because of which, so what happens is the collection decreases, the fiscal planning will get affected and public spending will also get affected. Okay. Next component is external investments. For example, FDIs or FPIs. Okay. So this is another component of external economy, right? So economic decline in the oil exporting nations, like for example, if Saudi Arabia wanted to invest in India, but suddenly the economy of Saudi Arabia affected negatively, so because of which it may take back the decision that it want to invest in India. So because of which we may not receive the foreign direct investments and foreign portfolio investments. So in this way, so we will be affected negatively. So let me show you the components of external economy, and let me again help you to brainstorm the points. So what is happening with respect to exports and imports? With respect to exports and imports, we are in a positive side. Okay, so we are in a positive side with respect to the crude oil imports, because we are getting crude oil for the lesser prices because of the oil wars that are happening. So because of the oil wars, the oil price is decreasing. Because of that, we are able to save the money as part of foreign trade. So we are able to increase the balance of payments because of this, right? And exchange rate mechanisms and currency convertibility will also improve. And foreign direct investments, foreign portfolio investments will get affected in a negative front, because see, the oil producing countries may take back the investments from the country, or they may not be interested in investing in India because of the economic hit in their home country. Okay. External commercial borrowings have no link with it, so you don't think of this particular thing. And tariff and non-tariff barriers. So if government want to impose any taxes, tariffs, excise duties, etc., so it will impose less excise duties and all, because the oil price reduces, because of which it will negatively impact the government. Okay, coming to remittances, the amount of remittances that India receives will decrease if there is a economic hit in the country, oil producing country. Okay, official development assistance, so you cannot generate point in it. Sovereign ratings and foreign exchange reserves. So foreign exchange reserves will decrease and foreign investments will also decrease. Okay. So this is how you will generate the points. So what we need to do? So there are several challenges also, right? So there are several positives, but there are several negatives also because of oil price wars. So what we can do? We need to diversify the energy sources. Instead of depending on few countries, we need to diversify our sources of energy from where we are importing. So, and we have to boost the alternative sector, that is renewable sector, which is also very environmental friendly. So we have to reduce dependency on the crude oil imports by accelerating adoption of the renewable energy, and we have to focus on energy efficiency, and we have to focus on alternative fuels like hydrogen fuel and biofuels. Okay. Next one is, we have to strengthen up the economic resilience also. We have to increase the diplomatic engagement with the other countries. So we have to build the strategic petroleum reserves. So once we are importing, we have to maintain the reserves of the petroleum, so we can use whenever the economy of the world is getting affected. And we have to improve the fiscal buffers also. And we have to improve the diplomatic ties with the oil producing nations, so that will not be impacted in a negative way. Okay. So that was about that particular topic. I hope you have understood it clearly. So I have tried to explain it as easily as possible so that you'll understand the concept. So try to test your take by attempting these questions if you are buying the PDF. Okay. So why I'm not solving this MCQ with this true or false fill in the blanks in the classes? So already the length of the class is getting very huge. Okay. So there is a increase in the length of the class, so the duration of the class is higher. So in order to decrease that, I'm not discussing about that. So once you buy the PDF, lot of MCQs, lot of true or false will be there over there, so you need to try on yourself. Okay. So next, topic number 13, 150 years of meter convention. So let's understand this topic now. So what happened is, on May 20, 2025, the Department of Consumer Affairs, okay, remember, Department of Consumer Affairs has celebrated World Meteorological Day. Okay, so marking the 150th anniversary of signing of the Meter Convention in Paris in 1875. So almost it has like we have signed it 150 years ago. So that will be relevant for our exam in 2026. Okay. So you have to learn about it in more detail. So what is you have to know about the Meter Convention. So what is the date of inception of this particular Meter Convention? So this was also called as the Treaty of Meter. So this was signed in Paris in May 20, 1875. So this was signed to establish a global system of standardized measurements. So for example, we use meter, kilometers, kgs. So these kind of units are something which we'll be using, right? So in order to standardize these particular units throughout the world. So we have come up with something called as meter convention. So this was brought in 1875 in May 20, and almost 150 years later we are studying it now. So as it is marking the 150th anniversary of it, it is relevant for the exam point of view. Remember, this particular treaty was signed in Paris. Okay. So 17 founding members were there. You don't need to remember all the names. Okay. So it's impossible also to read and remember till the exam. So you can skip this. Just remember that India is not part of it. Okay. India is not a founding nation. You can check over here. Okay. India is not a founding nation, whereas countries like USA, Brazil, okay, Norway, Sweden, these are all part of it, and even Ottoman Empire. Institutions created. The treaty established the International Bureau of Weights and Measurements, and 2 governing bodies are also there. Okay, General Conference on Weights and Measures and International Committee for Weights and Measures. So the International Bureau of Weights and Measures, International Committee for Weights and Measures, General Conference on Weights and Measures. So these are all constituted under this particular convention. So what are the early prototypes? It created international prototypes of the meter and kilogram. It has stored at the BPIM, so BIPM, that is Bureau of Weights and Measures. Member countries received national copies for the comparison. So basically, initially for meter and kilograms, there are a lot of prototypes that were created initially, and they were stored by Bureau of Weights and Measurements, and this was actually received, the copies of which will have been distributed among the member countries, so for the comparison purposes. And this particular systems and units were expanded in the year 1921. The convention was extended to cover all the physical quantities, not only the kilogram and the meter. Remember, initially this was only for kg and meter, but later it was spreaded to all the physical quantities, forming the basis for the something called as SI units. Okay, you'll be reading this particular SI units in physics, right? So this is nothing but International System of Units. SI unit is nothing but International System of Units. So as of October 2024, almost 64 member states are in this particular meter convention, and this has been in the collaboration of International Atomic Energy Agency, Institute for Reference Materials and Measurements, World Meteorological Department, European Space Agency. These all participated in this mutual recognition agreement. Okay. So if you take the case of India, when India joined it, so India has joined the meter convention in the year 1957. Remember, exactly 10 years after the independence we have joined this. So we have passed the Standards of Weights and Measures Act 1956. So initially what we have done is, in the domestic country, like within India, what we have done is, we have passed an act called Standards of Weights and Measurements Act 1956, and later in 1957 we have joined the meter convention. Remember, India is not a founding nation. So India has joined it after the independence in 1957. Okay. So and later we have bought an act also for it. Participation benefits. So if we are participating in the meter convention, or if we are joining in the meter convention, so what are the benefits that the country will receive? India gained the ability to participate in this particular bureau of this particular measurements work aligned with the global system, and this will help in comparison with the other countries also, and this will ensure international recognition of this particular standards. So what is a recent milestone then? India is now the 13th country authorized to issue OIML. What is OIML? This OIML is nothing but International Organization of Legal Metrology. So this is a certificate that will be given to the member countries. So if they are satisfying few categories or few criteria, so India is the 13th country to receive it. Okay, despite of joining in 1957, many years later. Okay, so still we are the 13th nation to receive it. Okay, the International Organization of Legal Metrology certificate is something which we have received. So you can solve this true or false. The meter convention was signed in Berlin. No, it was not signed in Berlin. It was signed in Paris. India joined the meter convention in 1957. Yes, exactly 10 years later we have joined after the independence. BIPM stores the international prototypes of the meter and kilogram. Yes, true. Then it will be distributing the copies to the member nations so that they can compare properly. SI unit systems was developed before the meter convention. Definitely no, somewhere in 1920s or so. So SI unit is something which was developed. The USA is not a founding member, so I have told USA is a founding member. And even there is a dynasty that was there. Okay, Ottoman Empire, that was also part. So It was signed in the year May 1875. India passed this particular Meter Act in 1956 to align with the global measurements. Okay, so then later we have joined in 1957 to the Meter Convention. So CGPM and CIPM are the governing bodies which are created by the Meter Convention. The international prototypes of meter and kilogram are stored at the Bureau of the Meters, Measurements and Meters. Okay, BIPM. India is the 13th country to receive the OIML certificate. So this is the match the following. BIML is not BIPM. BIPM will store the international prototypes. Okay, so next OIML is nothing but so this is legal methodological certificates, and you can match the other things also. Okay. Next one. So what is the next article? Article number 14, the trade diplomacy on India-Bangladesh trade related tensions. So this is the article number 14. So India has taken a sharp turn from its traditional cooperative trade approach by recently imposing restrictions on Bangladeshi ready-made garments and other goods. So basically, India will try to have a friendly relations with the neighboring countries, because we are following something called as neighborhood first policy, and especially if you take the case of Bangladesh, Awami League was something which was very close to India. So even India is the only reason why the Bangladesh got independent. So because of which, so in the history also we had a very good relations with Bangladesh from the past. There are few issues like Teesta water issue and all, but in all of the matters we have a very friendly relation with Bangladesh. But recently, because of some political changes that took place in Bangladesh and because of the regime change in Bangladesh, so India-Bangladesh relations were under strain, and Bangladesh is getting close to Pakistan, and also it is getting close to especially China. Definitely this will have a negative influence and negative impact on India. So that is the reason, as part of few remarks that were made by an advisor of Bangladesh, a temporary one. So he has made few remarks on the northeastern part of India that I have already told you, I think, in the last class. So yeah, because of that we have taken a steps. Okay, because of that we have taken a sharp turn from the traditional cooperative trade approach of the Bangladesh. We have reversed it, and we have started imposing restrictions on the Bangladesh ready-made garments, and we have started imposing restrictions on the other goods, right? Why did India impose trade restrictions on Bangladesh? So Bangladesh is moving towards China. This is something which I have already told you. So that's the reason we are imposing trade restriction, to express displeasure with the move that has been by interim government, which was led by Mohammad Yunus. Okay. So Yunus was invited. China's access to India's northeast during China visit triggered India's concern. So I have told he had made some negative remarks with respect to the northeastern part of India, and he had made a political statement against the northeastern. He told that India blocked access to the northeastern markets for Bangladesh key garments exports in response to the recent political comments. So basically, after he commented negatively with respect to the northeastern part of India, so what we have done is we have tried to block the access to the northeastern markets with the Bangladesh. So we have cut down the market access of the northeastern part of India to the Bangladesh. Okay, so in this way we have responded for their political remarks, because they have told northeastern India as a landlocked part of India, and he has claimed that Bangladesh is the gateway to the sea, and he told that India has no access to the sea. Okay, so because of this derogatory remarks that were made against India by Mohammad Yunus, okay, so the interim government, which was led by Mohammad Yunus, as they are making this particular remarks in retaliation of it, in order to show the displeasure against this particular thing, so what we have done is we have blocked the access to the northeastern markets, and we are signaling this approval of the political moves and the political actions that the Bangladesh is taking. So India seeks to object to the interim government's ban on the Awami League and its deviation from the democratic norms promised to the international community. So basically, India is opposing the non-democratic rule that is happening over there, and India is demanding elections in Bangladesh. Okay. what did Yunus say about India's northeast? So why we are triggered by the statements that we have he had made is because he had made few politically aligned statements. For example, he described India's northeast as a landlocked country or landlocked part of India. Yunus has publicly referred to this region as having lack of access or lack of direct access to the sea, emphasizing dependence on the neighbors like Bangladesh. So he was telling that as if without Bangladesh we cannot have access to the sea. Okay, he was in such a mood. Okay, so that's the reason we have taken several steps. Okay, Indian government has taken several steps to counter this particular move or to counter this particular words and the statements that were uttered by Bangladeshi advisor. Okay, so invited China to access the region via Bangladesh. So basically he proposed that China could use the Bangladesh as a transit route to Indian northeast during his March 2025 China visit. Undermined India's regional security concerns. So as he is actually involving in the sovereignty of India and he's making some remarks, definitely this will have certain security concerns in the future also. So these are the different remarks that were made, okay, by the Muhammad Yunus in his visit to China. How could the trade move affect India's strategic interest then? So we have banned few garments. So we have banned few access of the garments to the Bangladesh. Okay. So we have reversed the market conditions or the market things that we used to favor the Bangladesh now. Okay. We have reversed our traditional strategies. So because of which India will also affect. Okay. India will also get affected. So how India will get affected because of this particular strategic interest? So it may worsen anti-India sentiment in Bangladesh. So the India-Bangladesh relations may further get strained because of the move that is taken by India. So these restrictions that we have created with respect to market of India will fuel nationalist or anti-nationalist, anti-India narratives among the radical groups, and it will destabilize India's northeast. So this may hamper the security of the northeast. So its instability in Bangladesh may lead to the cross-border security concerns also. So because of which we may face refugee influx into the northeastern part of India. Okay, and it will limit the diplomatic space for the constructive engagement. So economic restrictions will reduce India's leverage for the dialogue. So if we are imposing restrictions instead of coming with a dialogue or a soft diplomacy, definitely the gap that was created between Bangladesh and India will further increase. Okay, this will weaken the hold that we have with respect to Bangladesh. This may further intensify the tensions between the countries. So, which key political stakeholders in Bangladesh could India engage? So, with whom we have to engage? We have to engage with Awami League. So, India has most trusted, Awami League is the most trusted ally of India, because of which we need to have a direct conversations and direct friendship with the Sheikh Hasina. We have to we have to have a political discussions with the other groups, and we have to engage with Bangladesh Nationalist Party also, which is a major opposition party. India should engage to understand their views on the democratic norms. Okay, and we have to engage with a few civil society and democratic reforms advocates of the Bangladesh. So by engaging with all of the stakeholders, that will help in building the good relations with the country once they get back into the democratic form. Okay, so why is the delay in Bangladesh elections then? Because of the regional instability and security risk. Okay, so a lot of times what happens is because of their internal security problems within their country. So a lot of times because of the issues or civil wars that is happening inside them. So a lot of border areas, okay, the refugees from the border areas getting influxed into countries, okay, into our country. So because of which lot of strain is created on our own resources of the country, and sometimes it is resulting into ethnic conflicts and many more issues. Okay, so what should be the way forward? So first thing is we have to engage with all the political stakeholders, like we have to engage with Awami League, BNP, civil society organizations, advocates and all, and we have to balance the strategic interest with economic diplomacy. Okay, we have to ease the trade restrictions that we have imposed in Bangladesh, because if we are imposing these kind of restrictions on Bangladesh, definitely the strained relations, the intensity of the strained relations will increase. Okay, so that was about this particular topic. Test your take by answering these questions. Okay, now let's look at the 15th part, okay, or the 15th topic. Northeast to be a gateway for trade with Southeast Asia, says Narendra Modi. Okay, so why is it in the news? So the 15th topic is Northeast to be the gateway for trade with Southeast Asia, says Narendra Modi. So why did he give in this particular statement? In what occasion did he give? So basically, he has told that the 8 states which are there, okay, the 8 sisters or 7 sisters that we call with respect to the northeastern states. So those particular states are now leading in the development and also the growth. Okay, so and Narendra Modi has urged the investors to explore the opportunities in the northeastern region also. So he told this particular thing because there are several reasons. First thing is northeastern part of India is a front runner of growth. Okay, it is no longer a frontier, but it's a frontier of growth. So and if you take an example, hosting of the Rising Northeast Summit to attract investment and highlight regional potential. So basically northeastern part of India will host a summit named Rising Northeast Summit. This Rising Northeast Summit is hosted by northeastern part of India to attract the investors to invest in the country. Okay, so and they'll highlight the regional potential also. So they'll highlight the regional potential. So based on the potential and based on the capabilities of them, they'll try to invest in this particular sector. Okay, and also the northeastern part of India is a gateway to the Southeast Asia. So the northeast is a strategic location, make it a natural gateway for trade, and it will help in trading with the Southeast Asia. So Southeast Asia is nothing but ASEAN countries. Like there are countries like Cambodia, Laos, Indonesia, Vietnam. So these are the countries through which we can trade if the northeastern part of India is acting as a gateway. Okay, so there are several projects that we are connecting from northeastern with Myanmar, Thailand, Laos, Vietnam under the Act East policy. So by connections, by coming up with such infrastructure projects, we are trying to connect from the northeastern part of India towards the Southeast Asia. So here northeast is acting as a gateway. Okay, so that's why northeastern part of India is definitely a front runner of growth. And next one is it is a powerhouse of energy, because most of the northeastern part of India is rich in natural resources. So that's why we call it as powerhouse of energy. For example, Assam is important for tea industries. Arunachal Pradesh is important for hydroelectric potential. So in this way, each of the states in the northeast are a powerhouse of energy, or they are special for one or the other reason. Okay, and they have a lot of cultural and economic diversity. So the region's diversity will foster innovation, especially it will attract the tourism. Okay, it will help in developing the crafts of that particular different ethnic groups, and also it will help in, okay, these crafts will indirectly or directly will help in increasing the trade for the northeastern part. And also, for example, let's take an example, Nagaland will celebrate a festival named Hornbill Festival. So this will promote the culture of the northwest, and this will help in attracting the tourism, and it will help in increasing the economic activity of that particular area. And also Narendra Modi will often call the northeastern part of India as Ashtalakshmis. Ashtalakshmis is nothing but eight states which are goddess of wealth. Okay, so the Prime Minister preferred to 8 states as Ashtalakshmis because each of these states are contributing uniquely to India's prosperity. For example, government has come up with certain initiatives like knee seeds. Okay, these kind of initiatives will help in unlocking each of the states' potential and also economic strengths. Okay, so in this way there are several advantages to the states which are located in the northeast, because of which we are treating it as a front runner and not as a frontier. Okay, so why did the Directorate General of Foreign Trade over the closure of land port with Bangladesh? So basically, the Director General of Foreign Trade has announced the closure of land ports with Bangladesh. So basically what happened is, initially Bangladesh used to get access of our land ports in order to export their products towards the Europe. Okay, so in order to export the Bangladeshi products to the West Asian region also. So but now, as I have told you in the last article, so Bangladesh and Indian relations have been strained. Okay, so they are in a strained position. So because of that, okay, because of the several statements that were made by Muhammad Yunus when he visited China, so because of that we have taken a decision to close the land port access to the Bangladeshis. Okay, because of which, so Bangladesh economy will get affected. So Bangladesh traders will get affected because they are not getting access of this particular ports, because of which they might not export to the countries of Europe and countries of West Asia. Okay, even if they are taking alternative routes, it will take longer time, it will cost more for them. Okay, so to provide a level playing field for the northeast, so goods entering via Bangladesh were bypassing local supply chains, hurting northeastern producers and manufacturers. So basically initially what used to happen is, so as Bangladesh and India were great friends initially when Sheikh Hasina was in the throne, so we used to give access of our land ports to the Bangladeshi traders. So because as they are getting the access of the land ports, okay, because the Bangladesh traders are getting the access of the land ports, they used to send their particular goods or export their particular goods from their homeland through our land ports to the areas of West Asia, to the areas of Europe and the western part of the western countries. Okay, so but what used to happen is, because of this particular the access that we have given for the Bangladeshi traders, so our land ports used to become very busy. Okay, our land ports were facing lot of congestion. So because of this, our local manufacturers and our local supply chains used to get affected. Okay, our domestic players were also getting affected because of the access that we have provided for Bangladesh. So at that particular time, many manufacturers and many business people, okay, who were trading in the parts of northeastern part of India, the domestic players, they have complained this particular issue with the central government. But central government did not take any step, because we had a very friendly relation with Bangladesh. But now as the particular situation has arrived where ours and Bangladeshi relations are not in a good way, so because of that we have taken a decision to close the access of land ports to the Bangladesh. Okay, so for example, cheaper Bangladeshi products undercutting Assam's handicrafts. So in this way the competition also might have competition used to get increased. For example, so the example given here is, Bangladeshi products were very cheap in quality, but they used to have lower cost, whereas in the case of Assam handicrafts, they are of high and rich quality, which are very culturally significant, but these used to have huge prices. So because of that contrast in the prices between these two products, so the Assam handicraft producers were not able to gain certain profits. Okay, so because of the competition that they are facing from the Bangladeshi products, so in this way also it used to hurt the sentiments of our manufacturers. And also to boost the internal supply chains and the manufacturing also, we have closed this particular access of the ports to the Bangladesh. So for example, to promote the local textile, to promote the Bombay industries in Tripura and Mizoram. So in order to do and in order to boost the internal supply chains, we have taken this particular decision. And the decision is also a part of strategic economic repositioning. It is a part of reorienting the Northeast as a commercial and trade hub. Okay, basically we are making sure that the world to know that northeastern part of India is of not of no use, but it has got very huge significance. That's why we are treating the northeastern part of India as Ashtalakshmis, okay, which will help in the economic development of the country. So they will act as a commercial and trade hub within India and towards the Southeast Asia. So they will have a direct link to the Southeast Asia, where huge markets will get accessed by India. Okay. So for example, we have several projects. We have developed several projects by making our northeastern part of India as a gateway. So we have developed projects like India, Myanmar, Thailand, trilateral highway. So in this way, we are trying to connect with the Southeast Asia. Okay, so which sectors are identified as key economic growths of the Northeast India region then? So first one is bioeconomy and natural resources. So this particular northeastern part of India is generally rich in bamboo, tea, petroleum resources, and Assam is famous for tea production. Arunachal Pradesh is important for bamboo industry. Okay, and northeastern part of India is also important for tourism and ecotourism. So it is rich in biodiversity, it is rich in forest areas. So northeastern part of India is a area which is having a high which will receive a high monsoonal rain, so because of which lot of wildlife, forest, evergreen forest will get developed there. So because of which ecotourism is a very relevant area for northeastern part of India. And also cultural diversity is also very important. So because of the cultural diversity also, it attracts lot of tourists. Okay. So next one is sports and youth potential is also there. So the region has high participation in the sports, and also youth talent is also more in northeastern part of India. For example, in the national level athletes, Mizoram and Manipur contribute more. Okay, they'll produce lot of athletes with respect to national level. How is India planning to connect the Northeast with Southeast Asia then? So we are developing several infrastructure projects in order to connect. Okay, for example, this India, Myanmar, Thailand trilateral highway, and we are coming up with bilateral linkages, multilateral linkages also. So several projects are underway to link the northeastern part of India with the ASEAN nations. So several projects are underway, like we are coming up with several projects. So for example, there is a direct connectivity with Myanmar, Thailand, Laos and Vietnam, and we are trying to transform the region into a trade gateway. Okay, northeast region is being positioned as a gateway for trade. Okay, so this particular gateway will help in connecting to the Southeast Asia. For example, lot of border trade hubs are developed, logistic parks are developed, especially in the regions of Manipur and Mizoram. Okay, in this way we are trying to connect with the Southeast Asia. Okay, so what should be the way forward then? What more can be done? We need to promote the local industries. We need to develop the skills of the northeast part of India. We have to support the local entrepreneurship and MSMEs development, and more incentives have to be provided to MSMEs. Eco-tourism, agri-business and clean energy also needed to be developed. And along with that, we have to accelerate the infrastructure projects, connectivity projects. We have to ensure that the highways, the rail links and trade corridors are completed on a particular and proper time. Okay, so by making sure all of this happens, so definitely northeast part of India will act as a gateway to the Southeast Asian markets. Okay, so after you buy the PDF, you can practice this particular true or false, match the following bombs, etc. in order to retain the information. So no new information will be provided as part of fill in the blanks and all. So the information that we have learned, okay, the facts that we have learned will be framed in the form of fill in the blanks, true or false, so that you can solve them and retain the information. Okay, so next article, time for a new India-Africa digital compact. So basically there is a day which was celebrated by Africa, which is called as Africa Day, which is an anniversary to them. So May 25 will be treated as the Africa Day. So for founding the Organization of Africa Unity, okay, as they found Africa Unity Organization in 1963 on this particular day on May 25th. So that's why we are treating May 25th as a Africa Day. Okay, so India's pivot towards digital diplomacy in Africa marks a significant evolution in South-South development operations. So basically, in order to develop the digital economy and digital sector and digital tools in Africa, India have strived a lot. Okay, India has invested a lot in Africa in order to develop these digital tools in Africa. So that's why we and Africa have a certain kind of digital diplomatic relation. Okay, so what is the goal of Africa digital strategy then? So they want to accelerate socio-economic development by placing this digital innovation at the center of the growth. So they want to grow as part of this particular growth. So basically Africa want to grow. So as part of this particular growth, the center of the particular growth is kept around the innovation. So they want to come up with the innovations through which they want to grow. Okay, I hope you have understood. So they want to innovate. The digital innovation is something which they want to put at the center by coming up with the development. So they want to promote the e-governance models, digital education, telemedicine by coming up with the national digital platforms, and they want to enable inclusive and sustainable development. They want to encourage governments to adopt the digital solutions. Okay, so whatever the initiatives that they bring in Africa, they wanted to bring through coming up or merging with the digital tools. Okay, so for example, Smart Africa Alliance will support digital transformation across the sectors like health, education and finance. Okay, so these are the different strategies that Africa wanted to use with respect to digital technology. How is India supporting Africa's digital shift? So sharing digital public infrastructure. So India is supporting Africa by sharing the digital public infrastructure. India is sharing scalable and affordable models. Okay, so digital public infrastructure is nothing but whatever the digital infrastructure that we have developed. So this will be accessible to the public for low cost. Okay, so as it is equally accessible to the public, we are calling it as a digital public infrastructure. So there are several tools that we have got. For example, there are tools like Aadhaar. Okay, like why Aadhaar is useful? This will help in DBT processes. Okay, there are tools like Jandan account. Okay, there are certain tools like UPI. So these are all nothing but these are the digital public infrastructure. So they'll help in in coming up with the digital technology, they'll help in developing the digital technology and developing the African sector. So India has shared this particular DPI models like Aadhaar, Digital ID, UPI and Diksha, like digital education, all of these models to the Africa. In 2024, the Bank of Namibia has partnered with our own NPCI, okay, to develop a UPI like payment system. So Africa also tried to come up with a UPI like payment system. For example, Namibian Bank, okay, the Bank of Namibia has partnered with NPCI of India to actually develop a model, to actually develop a application which is similar to our UPI, okay. So and next one is technical collaboration and capacity building. So India is collaborating with African countries for technical implementation, and also we are trying to help them for developing their particular skills in the digital technology, okay. For example, Togo, there is a country named Togo in Africa. So it has partnered with IIIT Bangalore to develop a national digital ID system using India's open source technology. And also we have also given them institutional support and academic support. India is investing in long-term educational infrastructure to build the digital talent for Africa. For example, IIT Madras has opened its first overseas campus in a place named Zanzibar, okay. So because of which, okay, so IIT Madras will also offer the courses like artificial intelligence, data science, which helps in development of skills to the African citizens, okay. And also Africa will help in tele-education and telemedicine platforms development also. For example, there are initiatives like Pan Africa E-Network, okay, which is providing digital healthcare and education. So this all will happen through the satellites and fiber optic systems, okay. So in this way also, by coming up with the tele-education and telemedicine platforms accessibility to Africa, by giving all of this, so we are trying to help Africa in developing the digital diplomacy, and we are promoting open source and inclusive models. So India is promoting our digital public infrastructure type models and digital public goods type models, so to make them open source and to make them adaptable. It is very easy for getting adapted to these kind of tools. So we are trying to help Africa in coming up with these DPI tools, okay. For example, Ghana has linked its payment system to India's UPI, okay. So in this way we are trying to help them as part of our digital diplomacy. So why is India digital diplomacy seen as a distinct from that of the countries like China? Because public good and open source model. So India is promoting digital platforms like digital public goods, okay. For example, we are trying to promote DPI models which are open source, which are open for everyone, okay, which are scalable also, which are very, very inclusive for everyone. So for example, India's open source module or open source identification platform is something which was adopted by Togo. So these kind of open source models are developed by India. So that's why we are calling this particular system or digital diplomacy of India as something distinct, as something unique, okay. So next one is we are coming up with a co-development and capacity building. And so basically India is focusing on partnership. India is focusing on skill building. India is focusing on co-creating the solutions. For example, IIT Madras campus in Zanzibar is training African students in the areas of artificial intelligence and data science. So in this way, co-development is also done, which is something which no other country is doing except India. So that's why we are treating it as a distinct model, and we are respecting the local priorities. So India's approach is non-impositional, okay, and India's approach is need-based approach, okay. For example, countries like Ghana and country like Zambia have adopted our DPI voluntarily, okay, based on their own need they have adopted it. So in this way we are coming up with a need-based approach with respect to the digital diplomacy of Africa. So that's why, because of these reasons, we are calling our digital diplomacy of Africa as a unique and distinct one. So what challenges block Africa's digital growth then? There are several challenges. For example, digital access is something which is very costly, okay. So because of the expensive data and expensive devices, it is making, okay, all the people less accessible, okay. It is not accessible for everyone in Africa. So that is one hindrance, and especially rural and low income areas are not getting access of this particular thing. And mobile data in many African countries is costing over 5% of average monthly income of them. So that is another problem. And also there is a problem of digital divide, okay. So rural urban divide is there with respect to the internet connectivity, and also gender gaps are also there in internet connectivity, and digital illiteracy is also a problem, okay. They don't know how to use the apps and all. Okay. So for example, women in sub-Saharan Africa are 37% less likely to use mobile internet if you're comparing with men. And the weak infrastructure, okay, they don't have proper energy infrastructure. That is another problem. So because of the inconsistent power supply, so because of the disruptions in the power supply, so digital services and digital devices will not work. That is another problem. So Nigeria frequently faces power outages. So these kind of issues are there in order to build the digital diplomacy with African countries. What should be the way forward then? So they have to make internet accessible to everyone. Low cost internet infrastructure needed to be developed. Okay, digital devices have to be made available to the public at subsidized prices. And energy and digital infrastructure has also to be developed by the nation, okay, by the countries of Africa. So they have to expand the renewable energy sector, and resilient networks are also needed to be developed by them. Okay, in this way digital diplomacy will get worked out, and they can actually develop, the African nations can actually develop by putting the technology at the center of their particular growth. Okay, so that was about that news article. Again, the same process, you can test your take by answering those questions. Next article, as US pulls back, China is primed to expand its soft power. So what is the news all about? So under President Donald Trump of US, okay, so the president of the US, the Donald Trump, so he has withdrew from the global commitments, like he has withdrew from World Health Organization, he is trying to withdraw from Paris Agreement. So these kind of global institutions will not work without USA properly. Okay, because lot of contribution to these kind of institutions are from USA. Okay, but whatever the gap that is created because of US pulling out of this organization is trying to get filled by the China. Okay, China is expanding, it is trying to expand its influence by offering some financial aid and increasing the global investments in these regions. Okay, why has US withdrawn from these key international bodies then? Okay, so it has withdrawn because of bias and because of mismanagement. So the US has accused WHO that it is being biased towards China. Because, for example, during COVID-19, you have seen how WHO has worked, okay, how WHO was in support to China. Okay, so this kind of bias was not liked by US, because of which it withdrew. For example, President Trump alleged that WHO failed to hold China accountable during the early stages of the COVID outbreak. So that is the problem. The second one is disproportionate financial burden. So as I have already told you, US is a country which is contributing a lot of these particular multilateral institutions. So US is claiming that it was contributing significantly more than any other country, because of which it is putting a lot of financial burden on this country, okay, on this particular USA. Okay, because as it is spending more on these institutions, it is facing the financial burden problems. So US is almost contributing 20% to the whole budget of WHO. Okay, whole funding to the WHO is coming from the US only, while China is contributing much less than what US is contributing. And another one is rejection of global climate commitments. So Trump administration viewed these particular agreements like Paris Agreement as detrimental to America's economic interests. So the Trump ideology is to put America in the first place. So his ideology is America first policy. So all of these particular policies which are mentioned, okay, which are happening as part of these institutions, are against this particular America first policy. And his protectionist policy is also, okay, he basically, let me tell you one second. Protectionist policies. What is protectionist policies? He want to protect the economy of the America, and he want to make America first. Okay, but if he is contributing and if he is funding more to the organizations like WHO, UNESCO and all, definitely that will hamper his policy of protectionism, and it will hamper the policy of America first. So in order to avoid that, he withdrew. Okay, and next one is he wanted to reject the global climate commitment. So Trump administration viewed the agreements that we have bought as part of Paris Agreement are detrimental to America's economic interests. So this is another reason that he has stated. So the US withdrew from the Paris Agreement, and it has also stopped the financial commitments which are obligated on the USA as part of UNFCCC. Okay, so these are different reasons. These are the different reasons why the Trump has withdrew from these kind of organizations. So whatever the vacuum that was created because of US withdrawing from these institutions, that was tried to fill by China. So China started contributing more financially to the global institutions. So China started raising funds to these bodies like WHO. So after the US withdrew, China pledged an additional $500 million, okay, over 5 years. And it has expanded its contribution to 6.45% in 2015-16 to 15% in 2024 to 2025. Okay. And almost more than doubled. Okay, so expansion of bilateral lending and debt diplomacy. So China has extended massive loans to the developing countries, and we know China is following a policy called debt trap policy. It wantedly give huge loan to the countries, the developing and the underdeveloped nations, so and it will make them fall into the debt trap. So because of which they have to give their particular places as a part of lease, or they need to fall in the traps of the China, and they need to get punished because of the acts that they have done in the past. Okay, for example, China's share in the global bilateral sovereign debt rose from around 1% in 2003 to 26%, almost 26 times it has increased, the contribution has increased. Strategic soft power and infrastructure investment. So in order to fill the vacuum that the US has created, China is expanding its Belt and Road Initiative also to other overseas investment. For example, recently Afghanistan has joined in this CPEC corridor, China-Pakistan Economic Corridor. So these kind of initiatives are bought. For example, in 2024 Pew survey, it has noted 60% of respondents acknowledging China's economic influence in their countries. So 60% of the different countries respondents are happy that China is involving into their matters. Okay, so these kind of steps are taken by China. So how China's financial contribution to the WHO changed after the pandemic then? So it has increased the assessed contribution. So China used to contribute 6.5%. Now it has increased it to 15%. And there are significant financial pledges that were given by China in response to the US withdrawal. So China has almost pledged $500 million over 5 years to WHO. Okay. So this will definitely boost its image in the health governance. So where does China stand in terms of global bilateral debt holdings compared to USA then? So China is leading as a bilateral creditor. It means it is giving lot of loans to the countries. For example, China holds 26% of the external bilateral trade. For example, so there are different countries which will give loans to other countries. So out of all of those countries who have given debt or who have given loans to other countries, so it is China who is contributing more. Okay, almost 26% of the whole loans that the whole world is taking is coming from the China itself. Okay, so these kind of steps are taken by China, and there is a decline in US bilateral lending also. Almost it has dropped to 4%. So China's influence on debt repayments are also increasing. Okay. So what is the status of India and soft power then? So if China is rising, definitely it's a threat to India. So there is a strong cultural influence globally. So India's culture, yoga, Bollywood and diaspora will definitely, all of this will act as a soft power tools. For example, we will celebrate International Day of Yoga. Okay, so it is because of the efforts of India itself. So world is celebrating International Day of Yoga. So this will definitely help in connecting with Indian culture. Okay, world will definitely connect with Indian culture. In this way, people to people ties will increase. Okay, and there is a growing economic and diplomatic presence of India also. So India is using diplomacy and aid to expand its influence in other countries. For example, we are coming up with the development projects in Africa, and we are boosting our credibility in the neighborhood countries by coming up with the infrastructure projects. And there are challenges which are affecting our software projections, because there are a lot of issues like governance issues, social tensions are there, which will definitely impact India's image. For example, India has ranked 29th in 2024 Global Soft Power Index. Okay, so what should India do then? We have to sign a lot of multilateral projects. We have to come up with the multilateral engagements, and we have to become a global leader in it. We have to leverage cultural diplomacy while addressing these domestic challenges. Okay, so this is about this news. So try to solve these questions once you purchase this PDF. Okay, so next news, the silver jubilee of a strategic partnership. So why is it in the news? So basically this article is about India-Germany strategic partnership almost turned 25 years. So that's why it is in the news. So this month, that is the month of May 2025, will mark 25 years of Indo-German strategic partnership. So we are celebrating a key milestone of the ties of both the countries, the growing ties of both the countries, and the shared goals between both the countries, and long-standing cooperation of India and Germany in the fields like defense, economy, and sustainability. Okay, so this is the context of the news. So what are the key pillars of India-Germany partnership? So first one is, we both countries are focusing on peace. So we have a shared vision of peaceful, stable, and rule-based order. So basically both the countries will respect peace. They want it to stay stable, and they focus on rules-based world. Okay, so that's the reason both the countries will regularly involve in intergovernmental government consultations. So this will definitely help in strengthening the political ties between the countries. And prosperity is the another important thing. So economic growth, job creation, and improving quality of life are the goals that both of the countries will dream of. Okay, so almost 2000 plus German companies are there in India, which is creating almost 7,50,000 plus jobs in India. Okay, so this is a very great number. And people to people ties are also there. We had a very important cultural exchanges and educational exchanges with both the countries. So 50,000 plus Indian students are there in Germany and studying over there. Okay, so which is the largest part of the foreign student group in the Germany. Okay, so Indian students are the largest contributors to the students who are coming from outside in Germany. And future of the planet. So we both countries are collaborating in the future of the planet, which is for the green development. We are collaborating on climate change issues, to tackle renewable energy, and to tackle sustainability issues. So for example, 10 billion euros Indian-German green and sustainable development partnership supports a solar and wind in Gujarat. Okay, so these kind of partnerships are also bought by both the countries, and we are collaborating in technology and innovation collaboration also. So we are coming up with the scientific research, we are coming up with the cooperation in the high-tech sectors. Okay, for example, Delhi Meerut rapid rail operated by the companies of Germany. Okay, Indian researchers are also there in the top German institutions. In this way, both the countries are collaborating. Okay, so there is a sector where both the countries collaborate a lot, that is defense sector. If you look at the cooperation between both the nations, first joint exercise was exercise Tarang Shakti, which took place in Sulur in August 2024. First ever Indian-Germany joint military drill happened in India. So this has included certain jets like Eurofighter Typhoon, Rafale, Tejas, all of these have included. And also both the countries have high level operability. So there are leaders from India, Germany, France and Spain. They have participated, they will definitely participate in it, and this will help in increasing the strategic defense ties between both the nations. Okay, so in both the countries are investing in the green sector also. For example, for climate action, both the countries have pledged for certain amount of money, which aims in India achieving the 500 gigawatt non-fossil fuel capacity target by 2030, which is our INDC target. Okay, so this is a part of Panchamrit goals of India, and both the countries are jointly investing in the sectors like solar, wind, green hydrogen sectors and more. Okay, and both the countries engagement is also suitable for the urban development and mobility sectors also. For example, both of them are investing in metro and smart cities projects in Nagpur, in Pune also. Biodiversity and climate resilience is the another field both of which are working. For example, they are focusing on protecting ecological zones. For example, the regions like Western Ghats, Himalayas. Okay, in these regions they are working for afforestation and water management projects. Okay, so there are few major Indo-German projects in India. For example, in Gujarat, wind turbine production and solar parks are there. Okay, in Delhi Meerut region, rapid rail development has taken place. In Maharashtra, smart cities are developed by both the nations. With the help of Germany, we are trying to develop biodiversity and protect biodiversity in the region of Himachal Pradesh and Uttarakhand. And both the countries are collaborating in the areas of defense also. So we can strengthen our relation with Germany further also. We need to collaborate in the technological sectors like artificial intelligence, green hydrogen, critical technology, and we have to enhance green partnerships. People-centric ties needed to be increased. So in this way, we can enhance the German-India relations furthermore. Okay. Next article. Article number 19. C. Rajamohan writes, in India needed a crypto strategy. So basically what happened is an MOU was signed between the Pakistan's newly created crypto council and the World Liberty Financial. Okay, so there is a MOU that was signed between the CC and WLFI. So this is a company which is linked to Trump's family. So this will definitely signal a dramatic relation between Pakistan. Okay, mainly the Trump is interested in investing in Pakistan key sectors. So this will definitely hamper and it will put pressure on India-US relations also. So what are the key objectives of this particular MOU that was signed? They wanted to promote financial inclusion. They wanted to use biotechnology to increase access to the financial services across the Pakistani regions. Okay, they want to monetize the national assets like crypto, and they want to include plans using blockchain to capitalize the rare earth deposits for economic growth, and they want to establish Pakistan as a crypto hub. Okay, so you don't need to by heart all these points. You just need to remember that. So there is a crypto based company, okay, in which the Trump family is involved. Okay, so they have a direct or indirect link, so which is trying to sign an MOU with a company. Okay, so what is its name? Let me show you. So yeah, with the Council of Pakistan. So this particular World Liberty Financial Inclusion is trying to sign an MOU. Okay, so it means that Trump is trying to invest in Pakistan, which will hamper the relation with India. Okay, so why is Trump administration is supporting cryptocurrencies then? So it is because they want to reposition US as a global leader in the digital assets. They want to promote the national blockchain strategy. They want to maintain US dollar dominance further, and they want to encourage crypto industry's growth and innovation also. So basically they wanted to get profit from the cryptocurrency sector. Okay, how might Pakistan's crypto ambition affects India's interest then? So definitely this will cryptocurrencies, if cryptocurrencies are developed, if blockchain technologies are developed throughout the Pakistan, definitely this will impact the terror funding. So terror funding might get increased. Okay, blockchain, cryptocurrencies, the crypto assets which are developed in Pakistan will definitely be used for the terror financing, for doing money laundering activities. So this will lead to drug trafficking, organized crime issues, and lot of internal security issues also within India. And strategic economic competition. So Pakistan push as a crypto hub will challenge India's position in the digital economy. Okay, that is another thing. Pakistan may become a competitor to India, and it will leverage. So this will be acting as a leverage of diaspora and tech for geopolitical influence. So appointment of diaspora entrepreneurs to lead the crypto regulation will shift the regional power dynamics also. Basically, first thing is it will impact or it will increase the competition for India. It will lead to internal security issues. Okay, and it will lead to a hamper in relation with US. So these are the kind of concerns that India might face. So Supreme Court's concern on crypto regulation in India. Basically, during Shailesh Bhatt bail case, which was heard in early 2025, Supreme Court noted that the paradox of taxing crypto assets without proper regulation. So basically, Supreme Court gave a decision with respect to whether to tax the crypto assets or not. So that kind of cases are already developing and they are already in development in India. So, and also, you know, cryptocurrencies are not regulated in India through any central organizations. So to retaliate the usage of cryptocurrencies, so what did RBI trying to develop? They wanted to develop a digital currencies. Okay, so they wanted to develop a regulation backed currencies instead of going through the cryptocurrencies, because cryptocurrencies are highly volatile and they are very, very risky. So that's the reason Indian government will charge lot of taxes on it. So we need to develop a comprehensive crypto regulatory framework so that we can have a proper management and regulation, so that other countries like Pakistan kind of countries will not use crypto strategies to do the money laundering activities with in Indian borders or within India. We need to enhance our cross-border collaboration also, and we have to increase the monitoring process also. Okay, so this is another news. So the last news article of the day: India raises continental shelf claim in Arabian Sea region. So why it is in the news? So basically what happened is India has recently expanded its claim in the Central Arabian Sea by nearly 10,000 square kilometers, which is as part of extended continental shelf. So basically India is claiming that there is a 10,000 square kilometer change or 10,000 square kilometer increase in the Central Arabian Sea. So because of which our continental shelf got extended. So this is a claim that India has kept. Okay. So what is this extended continental shelf then? It refers to area beyond the 200 nautical miles. Okay. So basically beyond the 200 nautical miles from our border, so that particular beyond the 200 nautical miles will be called as a extended continental shelf. So that countries can claim by submitting geological and geophysical evidence to commission on the limits of continental shelf. So these claims allow countries to explore. So basically if we get access of this particular, the economic zone, if this particular continental shelf, if it is really increased, if it has really increased, definitely that will help in increase in the economic zone. So economic zone of the country will also get increased. Because of that, we'll get access of oil, we will get access of gas, we'll get access of the minerals in these economic zones. Okay, so we'll have a right on this particular exclusive economic zone. So from the border till the 200 nautical miles, so this particular area will be treated as a exclusive economic zone. So as the continental shelf is increased, okay, so if the initial continental shelf is here, if it is increased till here, definitely 200 nautical miles from this particular position will be in our zone. So where we can actually use the oil and gas resources and all other resources which are there. Okay, and next one is such states can claim additional seabed area beyond the limit if they prove scientifically. So what we need to do is we need to back it by science. Okay, we need to provide a rational evidence for this particular increase in the shelf. So if we are proving that particularly, definitely if we are proving that to the like committees that are involved in it, definitely we can have that particular access to that resources. Okay, if you go back to the basics, the Commission on Limits of Continental Shelf. So this particular commission was established in 1997. This is a UN body under UN clause. UN clause is nothing but United Nations Convention on the Law of Sea. So that will help the states determining the outer limits of the continental shelf beyond the 200 nautical miles. Okay, so what does CCLS do is, this will review whether, okay, there is a scientific data or not, if there is a scientific backing or not. So whatever the states claim, if there is a scientific backing, it will make recommendations on extending this outer shelf limits. Okay, so this commission that was constituted consists of 21 experts who are from various fields like geology, geophysics, hydrography. Okay, because of which, as lot of people from lot of fields are involved, so we can ensure legal compliance and peaceful boundary resolution also. Okay, so what is India's modified claims then? India has first submitted a claim in 2009 for an extended shelf in Bay of Bengal and for an extended shelf in Indian Ocean and also in Arabian Sea. So we have claimed an additional 1.2 million square kilometers. Okay, so after Pakistan has objected, India has modified its claim by splitting it into two parts. So basically in 2009, when we have claimed to our when we have claimed this extended shelf, Pakistan has objected. So as Pakistan has objected, we have modified our claim by splitting that particular area into two parts to resolve the disputes and to ensure uncontroversial areas. Okay, mainly in the Central Arabian Sea. So India also increased its claim by 10,000 square kilometers using new scientific data. So for example, there is an area of Sar Creek. So this is a disputed waterway, which is a disputed region between India and Pakistan. So this is a point that remains as a contention, but India's modification aims for peaceful resolution. Okay, we have splitted these areas to have a peaceful resolution with the Pakistan without any clashes. Okay, India's claim overlaps with Oman's shelf also, but the two countries have an agreement to keep the delimitation open without any conflict. So we can, if there is an issue, we can treat bilaterally with Oman also. Okay, so this is about this extended shelf claim. So that was about this particular PDF. We have comprehensively discussed all the 20 articles. I hope you liked this particular discussion. So there are a lot of efforts for collecting the information, for jotting down the points, for making the PDFs, for doing this particular classes. I hope if you liked it, if it is really helping you, please make sure that subscribe the channel and please like the video, and also don't forget to share it with your friends and fellow aspirants so that we can reach more people. So our hard work will be paid off if it is really reaching more people. Okay, so help us by sharing these videos with your friends and fellow aspirants. So thank you everyone. Let's meet in the next class, and also immediately after finishing the video, try to attempt the MCQs which are provided in our Telegram channel. So the link of which will be in the description box. Okay. So thank you everyone. All the best. Let's meet in the next class.